Welcome to the Let's Go podcast, where we will be behind the camera, giving you insight into travel and tourism through our photos and videos. Welcome to another episode of Let's Go with Freddie T. Lane. On this episode, we're visiting the beautiful Augusta, Georgia. Augusta sits right off of the Savannah River, and the Savannah serves as the border between South Carolina and Georgia. But who knew on this trip that we learned so much about Jamesbrown? Who knew that James ran? This is Jamesbrown. This city, this town, Augusta, Georgia, everything Jamesbrown. We were walking down the street and saw this beautiful mural right there on the wall of James. There were like a few of them just there. Along the sidewalks, you could do like a walking tour by scanning the emblem that was on the street. While on tour this day, walking, we ran right into a marching band. It was Black History Month, Martin Luther King weekend, and we were able to attend like the town's Black History Parade, Martin Luther King Day Parade. That was enjoyable, seeing the prominent figures in the Black community, along with like the floats and hearing the bands. But then after the parade, we go over to the Augusta Museum of History. And this is where I learned so much about, I thought Augusta, but James, being that son of Augusta, I guess, you know? Well, when you enter into the museum, it's a beautiful, like open, two-story entranceway, nice. Then it has like a different historical areas that you can visit. But I was focused on, now that I know that this is Jamestown, I was focused on Jamesbrown. So we go through, you know, we sign into the museum. It's not a large museum. It's a nice size. So as we're walking through, I'm looking for the exhibit on Jamesbrown, and I see that there's a storyteller. She's there telling her stories as if she's the slave, telling, like, you know, those stories that slaves would tell as if they're speaking to their other, I guess you could say family members, other slaves, in regards to what's going on there on the plantation at the time. There was other exhibits there. You see there's a picture there of Julia Dent. She and her husband were the first Black-owned funeral home owners there in Augusta. So they have like that information on her. And then along the wall, you'll see they'll have common artifacts from like back in the day, like the vacuum cleaner is what we use to cook and clean. Back in that, I guess this is like the 60s, about that 60s, early 70s era, I guess. So you'll see that. But then I'm going to say I call it the Jamesbrown experience. So I enter into the area that has Jamesbrown. I want to say to you, help yourself so you can help someone else. That's still true today. That's true tomorrow, yesterday. It will forever be true. We have to help ourselves before we can help others. But hey, who knew? Did you know that the Reverend Al Sharpton was like James's right-hand man there? They were longtime friends. I didn't know this, you know, but evidently Al looked up to James as his father figure. And after James's son passed away, you know, he kind of, you know, looked out for Al in a way. So there along the way, we saw that they had like what James would actually have in his tour bag or in his suitcase as he traveled. It's stuff that I had in mind. Come on, he had like the medication, he had to smell good and all of that. James, the hardest working man in showbiz. Yes, he was. I knew he was influential with music back in the day, and even like to some like today, but even his attire. I mean, what I also noticed is James was kind of petite. He was small. You know, I stood there beside his suit and I'm like, okay, he was really small, you know. So then there's like an area in there we can go listen to his past recordings. The recordings that he done. There were like billboards, or they had pictures of like billboards of what was used to advertise. There's one in there from the Apollo Theater where you'll see it said invitation Michael Jackson. You know, because they were all traveling that Chitlin circuit at one time together. And then you'll also see other posters that are there along the walls of like James, headlines that he's made, you'll see other outfits that he's worn, doing like award shows or interviews. James was very stylish. He was a very stylish man. You could tell this by looking at the attire that they have, there within the museum. Then there's albums, his album covers for the albums that he had released over the time. The movie that was done, Get On Up, with Chadwick Boseman. They have that poster up in there for that advertisement for the movie. Then we go on, and there's just more information. Say It Loud. I'm Black and I'm proud. Wonderful. Then we go on to, they do have his memoriam, the obituary from when he had passed away. Has samples there for you to take a look at, along with other achievements that he's received over the time. There's a photo in there of the unveiling of the Jamesbrown statue that's evidently located there on Jamesbrown Boulevard in Augusta. We had no idea at this time until visiting the museum, so we went down to Jamesbrown Boulevard so that we could actually see the statue itself. And I took a picture there with it, and that's when I really saw. I'm like, James really was kind of a small man. But yes, respect. That's what we have. We have to give that to him. This is Jamestown. Along the way within there in the museum, go back to the museum, there's an actual Grammy. This is my first time I actually see a Grammy there in person. So it had his Grammy there. This is a picture of the portrait that we took when I visited his statue. And what can I say? Much respect. We have to respect him. We have to respect James Brown.